On question 2, it says, consider the parabola given by the equation f of x equals 2x squared minus 10x minus 7. And then they want us to find characteristics about them. Find the following for this parabola. First, we're going to find the vertex. Since we're in this form, ax squared plus bx plus c, we're going to use a couple of equations. We're going to use x equal to negative b over 2a, and this is going to be at our axis of symmetry. And then whatever that value is going to be our x value, and then we're going to plug it into our function to get our vertex. The y-intercept, remember, we're just making notes over here. The y-intercept, you're going to set x equal to 0 and solve. And then to find the coordinates of the two zeros, these are going to be your x-intercepts. We call them the x-intercept or zeros. And we're going to set y equal to 0 and solve. And it says it's okay to round your values to 2 decimal places. So we might have to use our quadratic equation with that. So x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And so you can see we have lots of a, b's, and c's in this. So let's go ahead and recognize that. So a would be equal to 2, b would be equal to negative 10, and c would be equal to negative 7. So it looks like really the first thing we need to do is find that axis of symmetry. And so I'm going to say x equals negative b over 2a. So that would be negative 10 all over 2 times 2. So that gives me 10 over 4, which is 5 over 2. So my axis of symmetry would be x equals 5 over 2. So my vertex would be 5 over 2, and then we're just going to take this x value right here, same one here, we're going to plug it into our equation for x. So I'll say 2 times 5 over 2 squared minus 10 times 5 over 2 minus 7, and use our calculator to get that value. That gives us negative 19.5, or change it to an improper, that gives me negative 39 over 2. So now to get the y-intercept, we're going to set x equal to 0. So I'm going to say y equals 2 times 0 squared minus 10 times 0 minus 7. And these will cancel because that multiplication by 0, so we just get negative 7. Now it does say at the point, so we're going to have to put in 0, negative 7. Last one says find the coordinates of the two zeros of the parabola and write them as a list separated by commas. So what we want to do is our quadratic formula to work this out. The fact that it's telling me about rounding to 2 decimals kind of cues me that this is not going to factor. So I'm going to use my same values from above. So this would be negative 10 plus or minus the square root of negative 10 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 7 over 2 times a, which is 2. And this is our x values. So I'm going to clean this up. This gives me 10 plus or minus the square root of, and what I want to do is I only want to plug in this part here into my calculator, and that gives me 156 all over 4. Again, go to your calculator and square root 156, and you can see that gives you a decimal. So this is going to give me positive 10 plus the square root of 156 over 4, and 10 minus the square root of 156 all over 4. And again, since it said 2 decimal places, I'm going to type those into my calculator and go ahead and round those. So I get 5.62, comma, typing the other one in here, negative 0.62. So just be careful with your rounding, and be careful when you go to plug this in your calculator. Type this portion in, hit enter, and then divide by 4. Same with the minus, and then you should get these two values. Now let's look at question 3. It says write an equation for the quadratic graphed below. So it says these are the x-intercepts and these are the y-intercepts. So when we're doing this together, we want to think y equals a, and then our x-intercepts out to the side. Because if you think about your quadratics, whenever you go to factor it, those are your x-intercepts, and then possibly it has some a value out front stretching it or shrinking it. So I'm first apply my x-intercept. Since this is x equals negative 3. If I move that over, I get x plus 3 for the factor. And then with this one, this is x equal to 2, and so if I move that over and get a factor, that's x minus 2. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use this y-intercept in order to solve for a, the change in width of the graph. So I'm going to plug in 0 for my x, and I'm going to plug in 1 for my y, and then I'm going to solve this out. So I get y equal to a times 0 plus 3 is 3, 0 minus 2 is negative 2, excuse me, that was a 1, and then I'm going to solve from there. 1 equals 3 times negative 2 is negative 6a, and then divide by negative 6. So now that I have my a value, I can write my equation for this quadratic. Y is equal to negative 1, 6, x plus 3, x minus 2, and I would leave it just like that. I would not worry about multiplying it out.